speaker, and then whom will introduce the keynote. I want to get a few logistic pieces out of the way. Please make sure as you leave space, take photos in front of the step and repeat. Everybody looks so good. So don't forget to do that. Also on your tables, there's a trifold, and one of the things says feedback. We would really love for you all to take a photo with your phones and give us feedback on what went well and what you think we should think about differently next time. That would be super helpful for us. Also, there is a whiteboard near the buffet area with Post-it notes where you can just jot down some of the learnings or key things you're taking away, and we encourage you to do that. We weren't all able to go to all the sessions, right? So we want to hear what you walked away with, and whether it was what you learned this morning in our presentation on the Justice for Institutions work, or what you're going to learn from Dr. Monique Liston, or the panel later. So we want to make sure we take opportunities to do that. All right, I'm super honored to introduce Dr. Reza Minigam, a mentor of mine, one of my cousins, who I had the opportunity to get really close with in 2020 during my Bush Fellowship. And for folks that know or do not know, the state of Minnesota, there's something called a Bush Fellowship. They give you $100K to further explore your leadership. And I'm really excited to announce that my mentor has been newly announced as a Bush Fellow. All right, so we all in good company, y'all. So I'm just really honored to be able to introduce Resma. If you don't know, you better know. Resma's out here doing really amazing things. Resma's going to share a little insight with us and then introduce Dr. Liston. So who is Resma? Resma is author of several books, most notably the New York Times bestseller, My Grandmother's Hands, Racialized Trauma and the Pathway to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies. Dr. Resma is a therapist and licensed clinical worker specializing in racialized trauma, communal healing, and cultural first aid. Dr. Resma is a senior fellow with the Meadows Behavioral Healthcare and the founder of the Justice Leadership Solutions and BlackOctopusSociety.com, where he established and advances the practice of somatic abolitionism, an embodied anti-racist practice for living and culture building. Dr. Resma is a highly sought-after public speaker and panelist, both nationally and internationally, and continues to serve as a challenging yet compassionate coach we all need in this time of racial reckoning and near global dysregulation. And to add many other things to their resume, now a Bush Fellow, and is a community elder and community. I want to give flowers while you are here. You are an example for us. You are an inspiration for us. And you are always there when I need to just release. This work is really hard. And we're all really passionate about the change that we see is possible in the world. But sometimes we hit a wall. And I've been able to call on you in times where I've hit that wall and needed someone to really see me. And you've done that for me. And I really, really appreciate that. And if I'm going to be any more honest, there are very few elder Black men in my life at all. So in addition to my cousin, a father figure, a mentor, you're serving so many roles in community, which is a heavy weight. But I appreciate that you've taken that on. Resma, everybody.
this ready to go, and then here she goes with this mess here. It's hard for me to hear stuff like this sometimes. And I don't want to. So, I've had people pour into me my whole life. I've had people who saw pieces of me that I couldn't see for myself. You know, I've been doing clinical work for a long time, and it took me some time to see certain things. And one of the things that I've come to within the last 5 years is that when my mother had me, when she got pregnant with me, she was 17. Okay? And when she actually had me, she was 18. My dad was 20, okay? So all the times that I was mad at them for what they should have and could have and should have thought more about how to raise me, I came to a conclusion that my parents were children when they had me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like we look to our parents to be our parents, but sometimes we forget that our parents were actually kids trying to raise us, trying to do stuff with us, trying to find a way for. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like the idea that my mom was a child when she had me and still found some way to pour into me. Still found some way to make things, even if she went without, right? She found a way to get me things that I needed. There's a picture where my mom was beautiful. My mom is taller than me. My mom is over 6 feet tall, right? And she was on her way to be a model before she met my raggedy daddy. Okay? There's a picture of her holding me. I'm her firstborn. There's a picture of her holding me when she's like 18 years old. And she is so beautiful. And the look on her face when she's looking at me, till this day, makes me feel like I'm worth something. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? So when we're talking about the work of Dr. Liston, first of all, let me say one more thing about Dr. Liston. Or let me say one thing about Dr. Liston that really has ingratiated. We will be friends for the rest of our lives now. She is from Milwaukee. I'm from Milwaukee. When I watch her, so when I started looking online at all of her videos, I'm watching her videos and I'm looking at them and I'm like, yeah, I like her. Anybody that mentions Franz Fanon has got a place in my heart. Anybody that mentions Fannie Lou Hamer has got a place in my heart. Anybody that mentions James Baldwin has got a place in my heart. The glue that exists between me and that person before we meet is a real thing. You're gonna have to do something to shake me off of that, right? If you are working in that realm, and that is actually a realm, then there's something for me to work with. This piece around understanding that our work is not fixing, and this is what I appreciate about Sis. The work is not about fixing. If you watch or you listen to any of her work, it is always about an invitation. right? It's inviting us to look at what is and what we have and decide if it works for us. And if it doesn't work for us, what do we need to do to make it work for us? Or if it doesn't work for us and we can't make it work for us, how do we make something else? The idea that data is violence. Some of y'all will hear that and just nod like it ain't nothing. You will sit here and hear her say something, and you'll think, oh, that's nice. But what it takes to be able to take all of the schooling, and let me say one more piece. When we talk about getting a PhD, a master's, an undergrad, or anything like that, you are talking about a conditioning. Listen to what I'm saying. Any black woman, my mom's one, any black woman that has a PhD, there has been so much conditioning that they had to reject in order to be able to have their own brain and say, that don't work for me. Y'all need to listen to what I'm saying. The educational structure is a conditioning structure that's steeped in white body supremacy. I don't care what school you go to. It is steeped in capitalism. It is steeped in all of the isms. And you have to go through that in a black body and get something. Do you know how hard it is to keep your black ass brain together in that? To keep your body together in that? To keep your sanity together in that, and then to come up with a phrase like data violence and work with it. Not just come up with it, work with it. Make it a knowledge center, a knowledge base, something by which we are moored in, and then we move from that. Do you guys understand what I mean? At the same time that the system is telling you you're wrong. At the same time that people steal your work. I don't even know you that well, and I know that didn't happen. And then regurgitate it to the masses as if it's theirs. Do you know that the only way to survive that is to be moored in your peoplehood? Is to have people that have poured into you before you thought you deserved it. To have people that just listen to you and rock with you and hum with you and tell nasty jokes that you should never tell in public. But you laugh till you can't breathe. That is the work of this sister, is to make it all right for us to take things and make it in our own image. If you're not doing that, you're not doing the work that's going to last for generations. Right? That's what people like Dr. Brittany, people like Dr. Liston, that's what that work is. Don't poo-poo it. Some of y'all in here are doing that same work. It is not nothing. It is everything for your people. So I only got 10 minutes, so let me wrap this up. The work that Sis does is unpermissioned. Okay? Liberatory work in and of itself is an unpermissioned work. It is an ungovernable work. What does that mean? That you do it even when nobody gives you the okay to do it. And then you continue to do it when you know people coming for you. That's to be ungovernable, right? And it is fugitive work. It is the work that is the work that you see on the paper is not all of the work that has been done, right? That's liberation. When we're talking about liberation, we're talking about unpermissioned, we're talking about ungovernable, and we're talking about fugitive. That is our work. About 5 months ago, and I'm going to wrap it up. I know I'm going long. about 5 months ago, one of the things that I do on a regular basis, and since I've gotten older, I'm 60 years old. I know I look good, but anyway, I look like Eric Bonet. That's an inside joke between them. So what I do sometimes is I just get on YouTube and I punch up one of my ancestors, right? So I may punch up Nikki Giovanni. I may punch up James Baldwin. I may punch up, and I just watch their videos, just watch them. And I just stay in that mode, right? And this particular day, I punched up James Baldwin, right? And any of y'all that know James Baldwin just like he sits, he don't say much. He'll be sitting there and he'll listen to you. He'll let you get all your stupidness out, right? You know, he won't let you, he won't interrupt your silliness, right? And so he's on the stage on a show with, I think it was Dick Cavett, right? Some of y'all don't even know who I'm talking about, but he was a talk show host, right? And he was talking, and there was this white man who was supposed to be this intellectual that was sitting next to him. And this white man was just assuring James Baldwin about all of the things that were available to the Negro if the Negro would just do better, right? If he would just accept what the white man has offered him, right, then the Negro would actually have a better life in this country. And he said, this is available to you, that is available to you, this is available to you. And James Baldwin's just listening. And when he gets done, James Baldwin says, and I'm paraphrasing here, James Baldwin says, everything that you said sounds reasonable. Everything that you say is in terms of what the Negro should have and the capacity that the Negro has, to a person who doesn't understand the plight of the Negro sounds like a reasonable notion. Then he said, you assure me that America has my best interest at heart, and you want me to bet my wife's life on that. And you want me to bet my children's lives on that. Given that our lived experience is that everything that you're saying will put me in danger. When he said that, I hit the pause. And I sat there for a second. And I breathed. And I said, there it is. James Baldwin knew when he was saying that the white man standing in front of him and the other white man behind the desk would not understand a damn thing he was saying. You guys understand what I'm saying? He knew that the audience that was watching it on TV would not understand what the hell he was saying. He knew that most of the black folks in the country would not understand what he was saying. And he wasn't saying it for them then. He was saying it for me now. That's this sister's work. So I want to introduce Sister Dr. Liston. Let's give her a hand.
To know me is to know that I'm never at a loss for words. But there's things at work that are bigger than me, that are bigger than you, but are showing up in this room right now. And so all I can say is that I'm grateful. I am grateful. Can my elders in the room just raise their hands real quick? Do I have your permission to continue speaking? Thank you. So if y'all get upset by anything I say, talk to them. Can we give a round of applause to Dr. Lewis? Look at today, girl. And this is my blanket thank you for the appreciation for my outfit. And I share that in I think the year was 2013, I went to Chicago and was trained as a doula by Shafia Monroe. Some of y'all in reproductive justice work might know Shafia, yes. Look at this. There are bigger things at play, y'all. I was trained by her as a doula. I've been practicing doula since 2013. And during our doula training, she says, when I show up for the baby's birth, I have on my best clothes. And that's often not what you're thinking, because it's like, it's about to get messy, about to be on the hands and knees. And she was like, why wouldn't I have on my best for your day of birth? And I share the same sentiment because my sis set a table. Who would I be to just come and act like this is a regular place to be? I have to put on my finest tool and make sure people understand that this is an honored and hallowed occasion. So I am just grateful to be here. So thankful for the work that we're doing together. I'm so thankful for the space and time and rest and all of the people who are watching your kids, preparing dinner, minding your job so that you could be here today. I'm thankful for them too. And with that, I want to talk about what does it mean for us to join in the work of table building. Because we can't just say, oh, that's cute, Research and Action did it. It's our responsibility to say they did it, and so can we. So we're going to talk about that in terms of imagination, meaning making, and community research for liberation. On all of your tables, there's some origami paper. I need you to grab a sheet. Just one to start. And I'm going to give you 1 minute to turn that piece of paper into a table. Go. We have some engineers in the room, I see. We also have some abstract artists. You got 20 more seconds. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hands up. All right, who's confident about their table? All right, stand up and show your tables. If you're like, this is my table, I'm confident about it, let's see it. Okay. Engineers and everyone who's seated, I'm assuming y'all the abstract artists. Right? Like it's a table, but maybe you can't see it. Respect it. What made that easy to do? Yeah. There are no boundaries. I know what a table looks like. We love a deadline. Yeah. 'Cause I made it. I ain't worried about nobody else making it. I made it. Yes. Yeah. I know what I'm working with. What else? Yeah. I gave you permission. You don't need my permission, sis, ever. But I love it. I love it. Yes. It was to your own liking. There was no, I didn't put up a rubric to say, well, if it doesn't have this, it's not a table. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I saw you activate. You heard me, you looked up, and you was like, nah, I'm doing it with them. What made it difficult? The deadline. My hands aren't nimble. It's been a long day. Yeah. Wondering if there's, ooh, that was a setup. White supremacy got a hold on all of us, y'all. Bad, yeah. More tools. What would you like? A scissors, okay. Your table's pretty, it's still standing right there. Okay. What else got in the way? Yeah. I've never done it before. But you played with paper before. Look at that table. Anyone else? So the difference, for real, between what made it easy and what made it difficult is you. Always. It's you. People got to fold in and mix it. Did anybody just write the word table on a piece of paper? What Dr. Wade Noble say? Dr. Wade Noble say, power is the ability to define reality and convince others that it is your own. That's a table. And sometimes we jump into a set of rules that I didn't say, you made up. You made up. All the people who didn't stand up 10 toes on their table, why didn't you say that I made a table? I don't care if you can see it. You really are fighting with me about your imagination. And the amount of sweaty brows I saw furrowed, just like, when really you could have just said, the table's right here, sis, you could have told me anything. All of a sudden, all the rules, the only thing I said was, grab a piece of paper, you got 1 minute to build a table. You could have got, any of my yogis could have got on hands and knees and would have been like, table. You know? And so it's just interesting. You know, we're still at the beginning. We're just on the title slide. It's interesting about what gets in the way of our table building and the practice that we have to hold on to make sure we don't let ourselves get in our own way. The difference between the table being built and not built is not resources, it's not time, it is not money. It is you. It is you. Because the table that needs to be built, it needs to be built based on exactly who you are and what you are right now. That's the resource we're looking for. You, as you are right now, is the table builder we're looking for. Okay, let's get started. We ain't got started yet, but we'll get started. You know, I don't say this much about elders, but sometimes I'm like, I understand why the Lord said you had to go. You know why? Because if she hit us with one more line, Toni K. Bambara in her less than 40 years of life hit us with more singular lines that could just, end you right now. This is the first line of a book. This is the opening line. There's still 118 pages to read after this. I need you to find a neighbor and look them in their eyes and repeat after me. Oh yeah, we getting intimate. Look them in their eyes. You're gonna repeat after me. Are you sure, sweetheart, that you want to be well? We're gonna do it again. Are you sure, sweetheart, that you want to be well? Hear it one more time. Are you sure? Sweetheart, that you want to be well. Woo, just sit with the question. I'm gonna read the next line. Just so's you're sure, sweetheart, and ready to be healed, 'cause wholeness ain't no trifling matter. A lot of weight when you're well. This is the opening line. You don't even know what the book is about yet. And I start here because when we're talking about building tables and setting a new paradigm, and the only thing getting in the way is you, we have to start with this question. Because table builders are trying to be well. Table builders are trying to be well. They are saying, whoa, 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 if I keep pulling up a chair to this table, my unwellness is assured. It's predictable. In fact, we've seen it. The people bring the chair and they fight and they fight and they fight. And if they're black women, they have a heart attack before they're 60. And if they survive that, they're spending the last years of their life doing way too much to get way too little just to survive. So people who build tables are like, are you sure, sweetheart, that you want to be well? Hell yeah. Here we go. We build the table. So we think about that idea of building the table and what it can do for us because it's a source of our wellness. By the way. Working in social justice research requires each of us to take care of ourselves so that we don't burn out. I don't know if you heard of this little book I picked up called Building a New Table, a community center handbook for transformative social change. This in the book, y'all. So if you thought that you could do the transformative social change without doing the healing work that you've been waiting a long time to do, gotcha! You can't skip past the introduction in chapter 1 and just be like, oh, I'm ready to do the model. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. You can be like, there's a checklist, I did that. Why didn't this work? Oh yeah, you skipped the intro where you got to deal with you. Understand that you are the most valuable resource for the tables that need to be built. And we do this work because what good is it to build a new table that looks exactly like the tables that harmed us? So if you don't deal with you, you're going to make a white-bodied supremacist table with a black face on it. Remember, you got to talk to her and him if you got any feelings. So I'm just saying, we can put black, brown, and queer faces on top of things that are agents of a white embodied supremacy. And then we start to work with them and wonder why it's not going to where we need it to go. So working in this work, we know that we're going to take care of ourselves. And that what I got to do is about me. And what a theme here that's already here, I lifted up Toni K. Bambara, I lifted up Dr. Brittany Lewis, is the fact that black women, since the inception of this American project, have been writing themselves towards new tables. Phyllis Wheatley, African stolen. We're not quite sure from what part of West Africa, maybe near Senegal, that she was stolen from at the age of 8. To come to this land and be of service to the folks in Washington, D.C., who later were the quote-unquote founding fathers. Remember, she came here, she was 8. She picked up this foreign language so well that she became most noted for being a poet. Poetry, now that's a whole separate conversation, but poetry is really a display of having the most complete mastery of a language because of the economic nature of it. I'm using as few words and intentional cadence and challenge to the way we rhyme and listen. I'm using the least amount to get the deepest point across. So she did that after being stolen and dragged across the ocean and forced into enslavement. But what she said in one of her poems, and this one was written in 1773, wisdom is higher than a fool can reach. And I read that and I was like, sis just said build a damn table. Build it. They acting up, child, build a table. They can't reach up there. They can't reach up there. Black women in this country have been writing ourselves towards building new tables since the inception. Who are we not to follow in their footsteps? Yeah. I love that you could just show Toni Morrison and everybody just like, yes. Just bask in her greatness. Chloe, sister. And I would be remiss to not say a graduate of Howard University, just like me. You see the picture of her boys up there, that's in her office. And talking about building new tables, we could talk about her doing that time and time again. But in particular, I'm thinking about the table that she built because of her work at Penguin Random House. As an editor, we're not even gonna get into what we know her for in the reading and the reprints. We're talking about as an editor at Penguin Random House, one of the oldest publishing companies. She had one mission. She said, I'm gonna get Black people's voices out there. There are a number of books who have been rejected time and time again by some of the other large publishing houses. And she was like, come on over here. Come here. Come here and let's get you together because this book needs to be out there. And the list of books that you now know or are deemed classics or are now core curriculum in African-American literature classes across the United States are because of her. So while we adore her personal canon, a vast majority of the 20th century Black lit canon exists because of Toni Morrison. Talk about building a new table. In one of her most treasured books, Beloved, there's a character, and this is from a play adaptation called Baby Suggs. And Baby Suggs was enslaved, and when she was freed, and she said, I'm gonna go set up, I done worked hard, my body is, I ain't got nothing left to offer but my heart. So I'm gonna do heart work. And so she was freed and a new child was born. And so what she did was set the most grand table you could see. She cooked a feast, a dinner, one so big that the people in the community was like, no, what'd you do all that for? Why you waste all your time and energy on that table? And she's like, this is a celebration. Do you understand what we've been through? Of course, I'm going to set a new table. Come and eat. Come and eat. And I bring this up because Toni set a new table. Ooh. So Toni set a new table that said writers need to get their stuff out. And then she created a character that said we need to protect the dignity and refusal of Black people's opportunities to set a new table. This picture here is from what I call my graduation. There is no pictures of me with a hood on. No academic could say that they hooded me or were there for my graduation. Because I said the last cussing thing I'm gonna do is have you people think you had anything to do with this. So instead, I got my community member in a very similar space like this in Milwaukee and said, this degree ain't mine. And I made copies of it. And I put everybody's name on it. Because it's theirs. Because it's theirs. And going back to what Resma was saying, it was like that table at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee don't matter to me. not bringing a chair with it. I'm not even legitimizing it. In my Rick James voice, table. We got our own. One of my closest friends, who is a college graduate, but she didn't get her PhD, she keeps it in her car, and every time one of her children acts up, she said, "Do you know who you're talking to?" And I'm like, that's right, that's what it was for. Right by my elbow, you can't really see, and there's some of these people in this picture have passed on since this time. But right by my elbow, you see a person who's not holding up theirs. That's my dear, dear friend, Nikatris. And she helped make this day possible. And just last week, she walked across the stage with her PhD. Wow. I share that about building new tables because building new tables matters, it's work. And the blueprint has already been set before us. Now, you said Baldwin like that. I was like, just wait, look at his face. You said what now? Baldwin, when thinking about setting new tables, really gave us a different kind of blueprint around refusal. Because what he said is like, America, y'all can't hold me. So I'm gonna go over to France, because they got a little bit more room. Not a lot, just a little bit. But I'm not forgetting y'all. Y'all not gonna hear the end of it, actually. Because what did he say? I love America, so I reserve the right to critique it perpetually. I'm gonna go over there and build a new table while doing so. In fact, this is in Paris, I forgot the neighborhood, in France where he was, and he was known at this stage in his life of having this grandiose table in the back in which he invited people to come eat from all over the world. One of the last ones, or one that's talked about a lot, is Henry Louis Gates as an intern made it to the table. So he has a story of meeting James Baldwin. And right now, if you're a social media person, going around is a picture of Toni Morrison and James Baldwin in the lush field. It's because she was at one of these parties. But I bring this up because the last book that Baldwin was working on, does anybody know the title of it? It's called Welcome Table. And it was a novel that was talking about the role of the table and you know how Baldwin, well, if you don't know, get to know how Baldwin uses metaphor to talk about the ins and outs and inner lives of Black people. And it was called A Welcome Table. We never finished it. There is a version that is out, but it's debatable because a white PhD student took it on, and it's like, all right. But I lift it up here because belonging and critique go hand in hand. When you find out there's a place where you don't belong, and you should, you better let people know that they are the ones with the problem. There's no credentials that you need. There's no certificate you ain't get. There's none of that. They the problem. That's where Baldwin said, I'll go build a new table over here, but US, my foot is on your neck. Yeah. If we're gonna talk about tables, we gotta talk about institution building. 1980 was the year. October 1980 was the year. As feminist and lesbian of color writers, we know that we had no options for getting published except at the mercy or whim of others, whether in the context of alternative or commercial publishing, since both are white dominated. So we'll just build our own thing and usher people through it. And Kitchen Table Press is so cold. They were so cold, y'all want them t-shirts right now. They've been defunct for almost 40 years, but it's like, let me get a shirt because I'm about to rep y'all. And I think it's important to think about institution building and well-being because you also have Audre Lorde's story wrapped up in here, right? Because you can't build an institution if we're not also thinking about the well-being of the people who are building the institution. That's right, because caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It's self-preservation. as a political act. As a political act. So we can't see kitchen table press and not think about, oh, shoot, I'm sure I want to be well. I'm sure I want to be well. Okay, all right, let me figure out how I'm going to do this. Let me look at the wisdom of the folks who have done it before and figure out the area in which a new table needs to be built. The intersections is where our table building occurs. I don't need you to build another research and action. I don't need you to build another UBUNTU Research and Evaluation or Black Octopus or Kitchen Table Press for that matter. I need you to look at the intersections of the work you do and find a table to be built right there. Right there. I just wanted to shout out real quick. These are some of the tables that have come out of all of this table work we just studied together, right? Shout out to Social Insights in the room. Shout out, of course, to Research and Action in the room. Had to represent Milwaukee. Yes, yes. This is important for us to understand that the table building work doesn't cease. I refused to read Octavia Butler. Refused all the way. I went to Howard University and refused to read Octavia Butler. You know why? I know, I should have known better. You know why? Because my mother and my stepfather, her husband, they love science fiction. Loved it. Star Trekkers, right? And it was like the more my parents, that's my little bit of rebellious. The more y'all love this, I refuse. Because they're like, you'll love it, you'll love it, you'll love it. And then I graduated and I was living in Philadelphia trying to figure out my life. And I had this book, Kindred. And I read it. And I stayed up all night. Like I picked it up at 8 p.m. At 4 a.m. is when I closed my eyes. Because I read the entire book. And I was like, oh, they were right. They were right. I couldn't stand it. But one of the things that Octavia gives us, and we're not going to go into that's a whole separate course, not even a conversation, it's a course that we could go into. But the most important things is that we write ourselves into the future unencumbered by the BS from the past. We don't bring that to the new table. And if we're not setting our imaginations on releasing that stuff right now, we'll end up recreating it. Remember when you gave yourself all those rules about building a table that I never said? You wasn't practicing Earthseed. Who did the Earthseed session? I didn't get to go to that one. Oh, okay. Who went to the Earthseed one? That's right. So did any of y'all fail to get a table out after listening to that? Ooh, yeah. You see how you got in your own way? Got in your own way just that quick. You just went to a whole workshop on Earthseed. Radical imaginations of being unencumbered by the BS, i.e. the social oppressions that shape our day-to-day lives. Earthseed says we can change all that today. Because we don't have to just build a table, we can build a whole new world. And that's the world I'll judge myself accordingly. This slide is taken directly from a workshop that some of my staff did. Shout out to a bonnet and it being represented at work because we are Black women. And some days you show up with your bonnet to work and that is valid, okay? In fact, you might get the best out of me if you just let this bonnet cook. But one of the things that we hold at UBUNTU Research and Evaluation is Afrofuturist evaluation. We evaluate everything against the idea that Black people are living a life unencumbered by anti-Blackness in the immediate future. So I don't care if we're evaluating a program and its service to Black folks who are giving birth. I don't care if it's a literacy program in the rural South. I don't care if it's a technical college, understanding whether or not their graduation rate should be growing faster than this. It doesn't matter, because I'm evaluating it all against a world where Black people are free. It matters in every single thing. There is not a piece of data that I'm looking at that I don't see the future of Black people dependent on. Dependent on. Because everything that we do that doesn't question that recreates the world as it is. Unintentionally, if we don't check ourselves, we collect and ask and interrogate in a way that promotes anti-Blackness. And that goes for all of its intersections as well. You're like, this project has nothing to do with transphobia. Okay. Are you dealing with humans? Are trans folks humans? Okay, well, let's talk about how transphobia might show up in this work. It's just that simple. And so I think it's important, coming off of Octavia Butler and coming off of Earthseed, that we use in our questions for research and evaluation the idea that we're imagining a future that we're not dealing with racism, sexism, transphobia, militarism, colonialism, militarism. We're imagining that world right now. So yes, I'm always going to have some comments. So yes, your program may be functioning, but it ain't working. Because if your program was working, I would feel a little more free just by looking at it. Just by looking at it, I'd be like, dang, they doing that? And you know what I'm talking about, because you felt a little more free when you saw Dr. Lewis and the new table. You felt a little more free when you saw the flyer for this conference. You felt a little more free when you saw a workshop title. You know what it feels like when we're moving towards liberation. And I'm asking you to make that your default setting. We done, I promise. Resma set me up for this. So let's build new tables. Now, there's been 19 million QR codes given to you today. Respectfully. All this QR is doing is giving you the instructions on how to build a table using origami paper. There is a way to do it. So let's close this part out with one affirmation. One affirmation. Go ahead and look at that person that you asked if they want to be well, or who asked you if you want to be well. And let's repeat after me. Say it with your chest this time, okay? I am sure, sweetheart, that I want to be well. Because table building for the future ain't no trifling matter. I am sure I want to be well. Thank you all so much.
There we are. There we are. One more time for Dr. Liston. So many nuggets. Maybe not even nuggets. I think I got a thigh and a leg and a couple of those. So I am now I haven't been introduced. Hi, my name is Tyra Bronson. I am on the Equity and Action Way board, and I'm super excited to moderate this discussion for you all today. I'm gonna start by introducing the panelists, and then we'll jump right in. I would also like to just ask your permission, if you will. We were planning, Dr. Lewis says there's the plan, and then there's what happens. And what has happened is we have made space for our people to share their gifts with us. And I also want to continue to make space for us to get what else we need from them and what else they have for us through this panel. So I'm going to let you all know now, we will not end right at 5 o'clock. Okay? I'm going to ask for at least maybe 6 to 7 of your minutes. Is that all right? And if you have obligations that I know some of you all have and you need to leave before then, we thank you for being here. We are so grateful for your attendance. And you have probably made some connections where you could say, hey, can you tell me what else they said after that? And we can continue the conversation. Does that sound all right? All right, thank you. So we already have the fabulous Dr. Liston up here. I also want to introduce, I'll make sure I'm doing this in order. I have you in the wrong seat. Can you, yeah, because it's a thing, because y'all would have been like, how come she's sitting right there? I know you would have. I know y'all would have. So we already have Dr. Liston. I'm now going to introduce Dr. Zuri Tao, if you can make your way to the stage. Dr. Tao is the founder and CEO of Social Insights Research. As a sociologist, licensed mental health professional, and a yoga teacher, she leads by centering collective care, healthy boundaries, and liberatory theory and praxis. She is also the founder of Liberatory Research, an initiative to co-create a space to amplify BIPOC perspectives and advance power and liberation in research and evaluation. She has contributed to curriculum for movement organizer leaders and has taught workshops on decolonizing research, trauma-informed care, and practicing evaluation from a racial equity lens. One more time for Dr. Tao. And now, the moment you've all been, I'm just kidding. She's been introduced like 17 times in the last 2 days. But we'll do it again, because she's kind of the boss or whatever. So we'd like to welcome Dr. Brittany Lewis to the stage. Dr. Brittany Lewis is a Black feminist scholar activist and the founder and CEO at Research and Action, a groundbreaking Minneapolis-based social benefit corporation that leads projects that center community expertise to create actionable solutions for racial justice. A former professor, University Research Institute director, and Minneapolis Federal Reserve Bank scholar in residence, Dr. Lewis has spent more than 15 years working in partnership with local communities impacted by racial injustice to co-create new knowledge and drive policy change that makes a real difference in people's lives. A process she explores in her 2024 TEDx Minneapolis talk entitled The Illusion of Choice. She is the recipient of many awards, including a Bush Foundation Fellowship, History Makers at Home Award from the Minnesota Civil Rights Department, and the author of the now released book entitled Building a New Table, a community-centered handbook for transformative social change from the University of Minnesota Press. Again, Dr. Brittany Lewis. Okay, cool. Whew, I've been trying to get in these soft chairs all day. All right, so we, again, are going to provide another opportunity for you all panelists, to share even more with us, and for you all to take it all in. As we've been mentioning, this is not just about getting things and hearing things, but it is about taking action, right? This is our day of action. So as you're listening, I want you all to think about what is going to be your action steps after this. How are you going to use what you've learned today and yesterday? What's your impact going to be when you leave this place? So we are going to start, and anyone can start. We can go down the line, however you'd like to do it. The first question is around knowing that traditional research and how we collect information doesn't always have the type of space that we would like to have. The tables, if you will, are not always built for us, being Black women, girls, and femmes. So we want to know, what have you had to build informally or quietly because the systems that we traditionally rely on for funding, whether through its government, foundations, academic, would not fund or they would not recognize?
I would just give two quick examples. One, when I was in grad school writing my dissertation, and Dr. Catherine Squires, who's my chair, knew this, I would apply for grants and they would say, this is not research, this is me-search. And I think, grad students of color are probably very much used to experiencing this. I had to learn how to write in a language they understood to get the money I needed, even though I knew what I was doing. And I feel like there is the learning that you have to do in the classroom and the other learning you have to do on top of that. So that's one thing that was always true. Post-grad school, teaching, research institute, now owning my own research company, I learned a lot about what I wasn't gonna do. So when it comes to grants and funding, I've always been very adamant about not wanting to chase RFPs. And what does that mean exactly? I mean, an RFP is designed by a board or someone with a set of interests that are not the communities. This does not mean we don't apply, but what does it look like? We spend a lot of time building relationships in community and relationships with individual folks in and outside of government to develop shared interests and determining if our values align or not. And when we determine that it does, we will co-write a proposal and we will go find the money that fits the agenda the community said was needed. And when I tell you the outcomes of that work built research in action. So it's not that we don't apply for funding, but we usually start from a proposal we co-created with a community entity. And they come to us when they realize, oh, this is how this works. And often there are also moments where the folks that share our values together will reach out to us and say, we're about to open this portal and we need you to apply, sis. Those are the relationships I want. We don't chase federal money. We were never gonna get it anyway. There's so much money we were never gonna get because we're very explicit about our values. We talk about racial justice, not racial equity. I don't knock people that use it, but I'm about reparative solutions. Right? So they're just people you won't work with, and are you okay with that? So then how do you build differently?
So I really appreciate this question because I think for me it started with the belief that it was possible to do something even when you didn't feel 100% ready. But you saw the need. And so that's the position that I was in when I was working as an organizer, doing organizing work, and they needed evaluation, but they didn't trust anybody to do evaluation. And when they found out that I was a researcher, they were like, oh, okay, so we have this grant, and we have this, and we have this. Can you help us? And the work came from the call of the people that I was already in community with. And so I was working for years as a researcher in a very traditional way, but I was also doing my committed community heart-centered work. And then that's what created the space for me to say, you know what, this is needed because my people are asking me for it. The people that I'm doing the work with are asking me for it, so it's time to build the new table. And I think I felt so motivated by helping them to accomplish their mission that I didn't even really think about. Where is this money gonna come from? How are we gonna figure this out? And I think there is an element of trust that is required when you want to do this community-centered work. Trust in yourself and trust in the people that are asking you to do it. And then you make a way from there. And the second thing I wanted to share is about the liberatory research. Right now it's several online courses, and there's some folks in the audience who have taken the course, and it's just been really beautiful to see and meet y'all. But that was supposed to be multiple international labs on the ground. That's what liberatory research was supposed to be. And I went and did this a Roddenberry application, got through the first stage, got through the second stage. I was like, okay, we are going to get this money. I was so excited. I could just see all of our local Global South research centers. And I got the email, and they said, we are so sorry. You have not been chosen for this. And I was so crushed. And then I got an email 24 hours later from the president that was like, do you want to talk about this? Because I want to tell you more about what happened. And I was like, no, I don't want to talk about this. Y'all, I really did ignore her email. I was so upset I ignored her email for a couple of days. Y'all, she emailed me again. And she was like, I'm serious. I know this sounds crazy for me to email you, but I'm serious. So long story short, she told me that the board, I thought there was a community board deciding. It was actually a board of people in power that are not on the website. And she said they didn't understand the idea that research is not neutral. They said, doesn't make sense. Understand that y'all want to give her this money, but no, we're not going to approve it. And so when I heard that, I said, you know what, if nobody's hating, you're not doing anything. And I said, all right, I'm gonna do it anyway. And Social Insights Research provided the funding for liberatory research to come to pass. And it was built from that. We built it with our own work and our own energy, and it's still going.
Awesome. Awesome. Now I gotta get the stem out, because if they hate, then let them hate and watch the
Money pile up.
period.
Amen.
I think that in this, I'm feeling it acutely in this political moment, right? And I hope y'all understand that everything that has happened in the last 18 months means organizations like ours should not exist. The three of us should have made it to January of 2025 and said, oh, well, that's the end. And we're sitting here. Cute. And unbothered. And I take lessons of unbothered from these two. I'm a little more bothered, but I'm learning to be more unbothered. But I say that because I've watched a lot of really well-established, white-led, woman-led firms shut it all down because they were saying the same words, but they were tied to the institutions and not using values the same way. And to the point of feeling through it, I got so many no's. What do you mean just you a black-led firm? Y'all don't like other people? Where does it say that on the website? You know, okay, do you all only talk to black folks? Where does it say that? Because some reason if I say black, then all of a sudden everybody else should be offended. But that's not the case, and I told y'all that wasn't the case, but you hated on me. That's okay, all those organizations you were working with, they don't exist anymore. You wanna talk now? And so feeling through that in this reality, right, of like, we still here. Now, we might be scraping a little bit sometimes, but that's okay, because we still here. And so I think that idea and learning through and being through all of that is a way to hold and reaffirm of like, I can't commit to that other stuff. Because once I commit to that other stuff, I don't get to do this. And this is what I did it for. I did it for to be here, to talk to y'all. I didn't do it to get an accolade or to get the research award or just to say I've been funded by such and such foundation. That's not the reason. And so holding on to those values in practice, the proof is right here on the stage.
Thank you. Everything that you all shared is super powerful, and it speaks directly to how you all are as leaders and the work that you all do. And it also leads me to my next question. Because the work that you all do is unique, right? And you've done this on purpose. You have created your own tables on purpose. And so I want you all to think, when you think about your approach to your work, what is one thing that you have created or leaning into, and then one thing that you're totally stepping away from? And I want you to name it just like that. This is the thing I'm leaning into, and this is the thing I'm stepping back from. I didn't say that, you did. Dr. Liston says, this feels like accountability. I didn't say that. Where on the website? No.
Woo, using your own words against you, it hurts. I am stepping away from holding others up in ways I don't hold myself up. At our mid-year retreat just last week, I took my staff and we all had to go to the water and release something into the water. I said, I love y'all, but I'm actually dropping y'all in the water. Because I've done a lot for you and it's good, but it's time to lean into me. And so right now I'm in a season of, like, in more ways than I ever have before, support yourself. And that is new and difficult and uncomfortable, but I'm learning.
Repeat the taking it and leaving it.
I got you.
Taking it and leaving it.
Because she didn't hear me the first time. Thinking about your approach to your work. What are the things that you are leaning into? And what are the things are you stepping away from or leaning away from?
Okay. I can do my research work in my sleep. The hardest thing I've done in this season is manage staff. Sweet baby Jesus. I am stepping away from having to be a part of everything and supporting my senior leaders and stepping forward. So I'm stepping away from that, leaning into them leading, and I'm also leaning into the discomfort of knowing that every one of my staff members has a very different communication style, processing time, and pace at which they make meaning with us collectively. I'm often the person in the room that's like, I hear the thing and I've already gotten to the solution. And I'm like, you know what, I gotta pause and let everybody come along in their own way. It's hard.
I am letting go of the tendency of being in leadership and wanting to be able to predict the future. That's what I've learned over the last 18 months. I think what we want to do as leaders of organizations is to provide security. And there is an assumption there, at least for me, that I can know what will happen and somewhat control what will happen so that I can do what it is that my job role requires, which is to provide security for my people. And that works at times, and this is one of the times that that doesn't work, and I'm letting that go. And what I'm leaning into is vulnerability and trusting that every single person on my team has their own set of ancestors. They have their own set of people who are loving them and supporting them. They have their own gifts. They have their own journey. They have their own destiny. So they are going to be okay. And I'm leaning and trusting that.
Thank you. For those of you who have not taken a deep, intentional breath, I invite you to do so now. A big part of the work that we do, because I do work in the world with people and leaning into race and gender justice, we forget to listen to our bodies. And from all three of you, as you were sharing, especially the things that you are leaning away from, there was a spiritual rising of the shoulders, right? And as I was listening, spiritually, I rose with you. And I'm reminding myself as a leader, right? So our final question, and this is a big one. This is connecting directly to why we're all here. What is your call to action for the community? What would you like us to go forth and do?
You see how they do? All right. Hit their hands. No eye contact. My call to this community is to come close. Let's come close. You're already doing a lot. Just be together.
I think in following of what I was sharing today, I think my call to action is write it all down. Write it all down. Sometimes we put undue pressure on ourselves to think that the first word that we put down is going to become beloved. And that's why we never write. We're like, the next word I put down makes me a Nobel Prize winning author. And that's, no. But the future, free version of our communities can only exist if you're writing it down now. So I'm asking you to write in your journals, write on the back of that receipt, write in your car, in that note app on your phone, in a text message to a friend. Write it all down, because you are writing our futures into existence.
I love that.
I think something I really loved about your keynote, you were talking about how we are getting in our own way. I mean, a lot of connections here. I hope you all have done the same. And there's a lot of folks in this room that have gifts, and you're holding yourself back. Take that leap. If you're gonna take a risk on anyone, it better be you. And honey, all three of us up here, we took risks on ourselves. And we are very proud of what we are building and have built. But we still, we are still having our moments of breakdown. We're still having our moments of unsureness. The one thing we are sure of is we took the right leap that represents our values and the legacy we want to leave behind in the world. And I think there are a number of people in this room who are stopping themselves from doing that. No one is going to come save you. We can do it together.
Yeah, now you got it. Okay. So thank you all so very much for your time, for sharing all of the wisdom, all of your insights. We are super grateful for your time. Everyone, one more time for Dr. Lewis, Dr. Chow, and Dr. Liston.